In the heart of Ghana, where the Volta River whispered ancient secrets and palm trees danced in the evening breeze, there lived a young man named Kwame. The village of Akosombo was known for its rich cocoa farms and warm-hearted people, but Kwame had become its most talked-about treasure. At 22, Kwame was the son of Naneyo and Memi Esai, humble Kent weavers who had poured their love into raising their only child. But the gods, it seemed, had been especially generous when crafting Kwame's features. His skin was smooth as shea butter, glowing like burnished bronze in the sunlight. His eyes were deep and expressive, framed by long lashes that made women sigh. His jawline was sharp enough to cut through the morning mist, and his smile could light up the darkest night. Every morning, while other young men headed to the cocoa plantations or the fishing nets by the river, Kwame would spend hours in front of his polished metal mirror, a gift from a traveling merchant who had been struck by the boy's beauty. He would flex his muscles, admire his reflection from every angle, and practice his most captivating smile. "Look at these cheekbones," he would whisper to himself, running his fingers along his face. "Look at this perfect nose, these full lips. Surely, I am the most handsome man in all of Ghana, no, in all of West Africa." His mother would call from the courtyard, "Kwame, my son, come help me with the Kent threads. The pattern won't weave itself." But Kwame would wave dismissively. "These hands are too beautiful for such common work, ma'am. Let my cousins handle the rough tasks. I was born for greater things." The village elders often shook their heads when they saw Kwame strutting through the market square, his chest puffed out like a peacock displaying its feathers. Young women would giggle and whisper as he passed, and he would flash them his perfect smile, knowing full well the effect he had on them. His childhood friends, Kofi, Ajay, and Yo, had all found good wives and settled into respectable trades. Kofi became a skilled carpenter, Ajay learned to weave like his father, and Yo became known for his palm wine that could make even the strictest elder crack a smile. But Kwame mocked them all. "Look at Kofi's wife," he would sneer. "Her teeth stick out like a bush rat's. And Ajay's woman, she's as wide as a baobab tree. Your wife can barely see past her own nose. You all settled for scraps when you could have waited for a feast." His friends tried to ignore his cruel words, but slowly, one by one, they began to distance themselves from him. Their wives would complain, "Why do you still call that proud boy your friend? He speaks to us like we're dirt beneath his feet." Kwame didn't care. He was convinced that he deserved a princess, perhaps even the daughter of the paramount chief himself. "I will marry only the most beautiful, most wealthy woman in all the land," he would declare. "Someone worthy of this face, this body, this magnificence." One bustling Saturday, the Akosombo market was alive with the sounds of haggling, laughter, and the rhythmic pounding of fufu in wooden mortars. The air was thick with the aroma of kelewele, grilled tilapia, and fresh palm nuts. Kwame dressed in his finest Kent cloth and gold jewelry, determined to make his usual grand entrance. He walked through the market like a king inspecting his kingdom, his head held high, barely acknowledging the greetings of the traders. Children pointed and whispered, some in admiration, others in annoyance at his arrogance. As he rounded the corner near the yam sellers, he collided with someone carrying a heavy load of firewood. The impact sent both him and the other person tumbling, wood scattering everywhere like pickup sticks. When the dust settled, Kwame found himself face to face with Nana Akosua, the most revered elder in the village. She was nearly 90 years old, her back bent from decades of hard work, her hands gnawed like old tree roots, but her eyes still sharp with wisdom. "You foolish boy!" Kwame shouted, brushing dirt from his precious Kent cloth. "Look what you've done to my outfit. Do you know how much this cost? Don't you have eyes in that wrinkled head of yours? The market fell silent. Even the drum stopped beating. Nana Akosua struggled to her feet, her voice trembling but dignified. "My child, I am sorry. My old bones are not as steady as they once were." "Then stay in your hut where you belong." Kwame spat. "Don't come out here stumbling around like a blind goat, ruining the clothes of your betters." The crowd gasped. Several people rushed to help the elderly woman, their faces filled with shock and anger. Kwame apologized immediately, called out Kofi, his former friend. "This is Nana Akosua. She delivered half the babies in this village, including you." But Kwame just laughed coldly. "I don't care if she delivered the whole Gold Coast. She should know her place." He turned on his heel and walked away, leaving the scattered firewood and the stunned villagers behind. Nana Akosua slowly gathered her firewood with the help of kind villagers. Her hands shook not from age, but from the deep pain in her heart. She had watched Kwame grow from a sweet child into this monster of pride and cruelty. When the last piece of wood was collected, she raised her staff toward the sky and spoke in a voice that seemed to carry the weight of ancestral wisdom. "Kwame, son of you who worship your own reflection like an idol, hear me now. The mirror you love so much shall become your enemy. May your beauty fade like morning mist, may your pride crumble like dried clay. You shall not see handsomeness again until you learn to love someone whose heart is beautiful, even if their face is not." The wind picked up, swirling dust around the market. Palm fronds rustled ominously overhead. Even the boldest traders felt a chill run down their spines. That night, as Kwame admired himself in his mirror before bed, he noticed something strange. The metal surface seemed to shimmer and ripple like water. He laughed nervously. Must be the lamplight playing tricks. But when he woke the next morning and looked in his mirror, his scream could be heard from the river to the hills. His smooth bronze skin had become rough and pitted like dried mud. His perfect nose had grown wide and crooked. His full lips were now thin and cracked. His hair, once thick and lustrous, was falling out in patches, leaving embarrassing bald spots. His eyes, once bright and captivating, had become dull and lifeless. "Mame! Mame!" he cried, running to his mother's room. "Look at me. What has happened to your beautiful son?" Mame Yesai took one look at her transformed child and began to weep. "Oh, my son, what have you done? This is the work of the ancestors. You have brought shame upon our family name. But I can apologize." Kwame pleaded. "I can make it right. I can give Nana Akosua gifts, money, anything she wants." His father, Nana Yo, shook his head sadly. "We searched for her everywhere, my son. The day after the market incident, she vanished. No one knows where she went. Some say she returned to the spirit world, others say she went to live with relatives in the north. But her words remain." Kwame became a shadow of his former self. He covered his mirrors with cloth, wore long robes to hide his transformed features, and rarely left the house. The villagers who once admired him now whispered in pity or amusement. "Did you see what happened to that proud Kwame?" they would say. "Now he knows how it feels to be humble." Weeks passed in misery. Kwame had stopped eating properly, stopped caring for himself. He sat in his room, contemplating his ruined life, when there came a knock at the door. A stranger stood there, an old woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. She wore simple clothes and carried a small basket. "I have a message for Kwame," she said softly. "I am Kwame," he replied, his voice barely a whisper. "The curse can be broken," she said, "but only through a test of your heart. You must find someone who is considered ugly by the world standards, someone mocked and rejected for their appearance. You must not only marry them but learn to love them truly, completely, for who they are inside. Only then will your outer beauty return. Kwame's heart sank. I must marry someone ugly. Not with your eyes, but with your soul, the woman said. When you can see beauty where others see only flaws, when you can love without vanity, then you will be free. The woman disappeared into the evening mist, leaving Kwame alone with his thoughts. For days, Kwame wrestled with the stranger's words. His pride fought against the very idea of marrying someone society deemed unattractive. But his loneliness and desperation grew stronger than his vanity. He began to venture out, looking at his fellow villagers with new eyes. There was Akojoa, the market woman with the pronounced limp. There was Kojo, the young man with the facial scars from childhood smallpox. There was Oma, the weaver's daughter who had been born with a cleft lip. Each person he saw, he tried to imagine as a spouse. But his stomach churned with revulsion, not at them, but at his own shallow thinking. Then one day, he encountered Efua. Efua was perhaps the most unfortunate-looking woman in the village. She was short and round, with skin marked by smallpox scars. Her left eye was clouded from an old injury, and her teeth were crooked and stained. People often whispered cruel jokes about her appearance, and she had long ago accepted that she would never marry. But Kwame noticed something else about Efua. She was always helping others, carrying water for elderly neighbors, mending clothes for children whose parents couldn't afford to buy new ones, sharing her meager food with stray dogs and cats. She never complained, never showed bitterness despite how the world treated her. Kwame approached Efua one evening as she was feeding scraps to a limping dog. Efua, he said quietly, I would like to speak with you. She looked up in surprise. Even in his transformed state, she knew who he was, the once proud Kwame who had mocked so many. What do you want? She asked, not unkindly, but with weariness. I want to marry you, he said simply. Efua laughed, but there was no joy in it. Is this some kind of joke? Are you mocking me like the others? No, Kwame said, sitting beside her in the dirt. I am serious. I know I have no right to ask, given who I was, who I've been. But I am asking. Efua studied his face, seeing the sincerity in his dull eyes. Why me? Why now? Kwame told her everything, about the curse, about his transformation, about the mysterious woman's words. He expected her to laugh at him, to walk away. Instead, she listened quietly. So you want to marry me to break a curse, she said finally. Not because you care for me, but because you need me. The words hit Kwame like a physical blow. She was right, and her honesty shamed him. Yes, he admitted. But I promise you, I will be a good husband. I will provide for you, protect you, honor you. Efua looked at the limping dog, then back at Kwame. Very well, she said. But know this, I will not be your path to redemption unless you become mine as well. Treat me with respect, and I will do the same for you. Their wedding was a quiet affair. A few curious villagers attended, most expecting the marriage to end in disaster. Kwame and Efua moved into a small hut on the outskirts of the village. The first weeks were difficult. Kwame struggled with his own revulsion, not at Efua, but at his own superficial reactions. He would catch himself looking away when she smiled, cringing at her scarred hands, feeling embarrassed to be seen with her. But Efua was patient. She cooked for him, cleaned their small home, and never complained about his silences or his obvious discomfort. She told him stories of her life, of the kindness she had received from unexpected sources, of the beauty she found in small things, a perfect sunset, a child's laughter, the way morning light filtered through their window. Slowly, Kwame began to see glimpses of who Efua really was. When a neighbor's child fell ill, she sat up all night making herbal remedies. When an elderly man had no firewood, she gave him half of theirs. When stray animals needed food, she would go without to feed them. "Why do you do all this?" he asked her one day. "People have never been kind to you." Efua looked at him with her one good eye. "Because kindness is not something you do because you've received it. It's something you do because it's right. Beauty fades, Kwame. Strength fails. But kindness echoes forever." One night, about 6 months into their marriage, Kwame woke to find Efua weeping quietly. "What's wrong?" he asked, genuinely concerned. "I had a dream," she whispered. "I dreamed I was beautiful, and you looked at me with love instead of duty." Kwame's heart broke. In that moment, he realized that his own curse had blinded him to hers. She longed to be seen as beautiful just as much as he did. The difference was, she had never let that longing make her cruel. "Efua," he said softly, "look at me." She turned her scarred face toward him. "You are beautiful," he said, and for the first time, he truly meant it. "Your heart is more beautiful than any face could ever be. Your kindness shines brighter than any smooth skin. Your gentleness is more precious than any perfect feature." As the words left his mouth, he felt something shift inside him. It was as if a veil had been lifted from his eyes. He saw Efua not as the world saw her, but as she truly was, a person of extraordinary beauty, generosity, and strength. "I love you," he said, and the words rang with absolute truth. Efua smiled through her tears. "And I love you, Kwame. Not the man you were, and not the man you might become, but the man you are right now." The next morning, Kwame woke to find Efua staring at him in wonder. "Kwame," she whispered, "look in the water pot." He approached the large clay vessel that served as their mirror and gasped. His reflection showed his original face, smooth bronze skin, bright eyes, perfect features. But somehow, it looked different. His beauty was still there, but it was softer now, tempered with wisdom and kindness. "The curse is broken," Efua said, her voice filled with joy. "Your heart has learned to see truly." But Kwame barely heard her. He was staring at Efua, and his eyes widened in amazement. "Efua," he breathed, you're." She looked down at her hands and gasped. Her skin was smooth and clear. Her clouded eye was bright and clear. Her crooked teeth were straight and white. She was, by any measure, breathtakingly beautiful. "I don't understand," she whispered. "The curse was on both of us," Kwame realized. "You were made to appear ugly to test whether I could love beyond appearance. I was made ugly to learn humility. But when we both learned to love truly," they embraced, both transformed, but more importantly, both transformed in their hearts. News of their transformation spread quickly through the village. People came from far and wide to see the couple who had broken the curse through love. But Kwame and Efua remained humble. They opened their home to travelers, fed the hungry, and cared for the sick. Kwame learned to weave kente from his father and created beautiful cloths that he sold to support their charitable work. Efua taught children to read and write, sharing her wisdom with the next generation. The village prospered under their influence. Young people learned that true beauty comes from within, and that love is not about finding someone perfect, but about seeing perfection in someone imperfect. One day, as they sat together watching the sunset over the Volta River, Efua asked, "Do you ever miss it? The way you were before?" Kwame considered the question. "You mean when I was beautiful on the outside but ugly within? When I was admired but not loved? When I had a perfect face but an empty heart?" He shook his head. "Never. I would rather be truly beautiful than merely pretty." "And what is true beauty?" Efua asked, though she already knew the answer. "True beauty," Kwame said, taking her hand, "is love given freely, kindness shown without expectation, and a heart that sees the divine in every person it meets." Years later, when Kwame and Efua were old and gray, they would tell their story to their children and grandchildren. They would speak of the importance of humility, of the power of love to transform, and of the truth that real beauty comes from within. The village of Akosombo became known throughout Ghana for its kindness and generosity. Travelers would come expecting to find the couple famous for their beauty, but they would leave having learned about the beauty of their hearts. And in the market square, where once Kwame had mocked an old woman and received his curse, there now stood a fountain dedicated to Nana Akosua. The inscription read, "True beauty is not in the face, true beauty is a light in the heart." Some say that on quiet evenings, when the wind whispers through the palm trees, you can still hear the echo of Nana Akosua's voice, reminding all who listen that pride leads to a fall, but humility lifts the soul.